Hi, my name is Annie Lott. I'm here with Sandra Fatmi-Hall today, candidate for District 2 Commissioner of Orange County. I am the Director of Communications for Central Floridians for Public Transit, and our mission is to advocate for fast, frequent, and convenient public transit service in Greater Orlando.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to get started with some of the questions Central Floridians for Public Transit has for Sandra.
Okay.
Our first question is, have you ever used Lynx or Sunrail? And if so, what were your experiences? And if you have not used them, what do you think are some of the obstacles for you to using these services? And what are some of the obstacles to the community as well?
Okay, so a long time ago, I did ride the Lynx bus once. Never been on Sunrail. It was rather interesting waiting quite some time for that bus to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I have heard of the obstacles. You know, I've been a part of the conversation through the Pine Hills Community Council. I'm the immediate past president of the Lynx station that was supposed to be on Belco. That we started that conversation 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, being a part of that study and the conversation, the length of time to wait for a bus is not realistic.
Right.
It's not. So if you are heading to work, because this is the only mode of transportation, it doesn't work. You have to start out 4 hours ahead of time. It sounds like a whole lot, but it's realistic because sometimes it takes that long for it to come. And if it's not 4 hours, it's somewhere 2 hours plus for it to come. And you have to get to work on time. They don't want to hear that you were waiting for the bus. They would have actually said to start out earlier to get to the bus so that you can get to work on time. So that is a huge issue. The length of time that it takes.
Right.
Is not very appealing currently. I know the studies have shown that we're down, according to a community of our size, maybe even 300-400 buses that we're down based on other studies that have been done in Philadelphia and other areas, where when you take a look at our size, I believe that we're down that many buses. So that's an issue for our community as a whole.
Yes.
Right? It's not very encouraging for businesses to come here because not everyone drives. How will they get to work? Right? So that's a huge issue in our community and one that's talked about all the time. I've seen buses in the Pine Hills area, no sheds. They're in dark, unlit areas. That brings about safety concerns for me. Right? So there's lots of concerns that I have about our current state of Lynx that we're in right now that I think needs to be addressed immediately.
Right. Yeah. Central Floridians for Public Transit, we understand, and we all ride the bus too.
Yes.
And we know how long it can take a bus to come. I think like 50% of Lynx lines, they take 50 minutes between each bus, and that's not a sustainable mode of getting to work or getting anywhere really. And the problem we've heard from Lynx is just funding. They don't have the resources to increase frequency to the levels that our community needs. And recently there was there was a study by University of Texas that showed that there are large portions of Orlando area that are transit deserts where supply of buses and transit is far below the demand.
Yes.
So you were talking about the local transit service in Pine Hills, I believe.
Yes.
Can you discuss more about the local service that you know of in District 2 and what some improvements could be?
Well, I do know that when that conversation started a few years ago, we had videos of people that actually ride the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And those hours that were on that survey were disturbing because I talked about 4 hours. It's anywhere from an hour to 4 hours, but we had people that actually waited longer than that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not realistic. We have people in wheelchairs that are in the district that are waiting to get to appointments that it took them a very long time. It's very discouraging.
Yes.
It's not encouraging for anyone to ride the public transportation. Of course, we know it serves us as a plus to have our buses work efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
because it cuts back on, let's not talk about the emission and everything else that comes from all the vehicles that are on the road. And when you have 1,000 people moving here weekly, that brings about concern about our transit and our transportation modes for our people. So I've seen that across District 2 through conversation with individuals that actually ride the bus, that have stopped riding the bus. So I'm pretty sure ridership may be down for that reason alone. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed, because young people that are just graduating from college, or those that are even in college right now, have to utilize that mode of transportation, because not everyone can afford a car right now. So we need to get to some sort of efficiency, and that's a huge concern for everyone that I've ever heard ride the bus, or any survey that I've ever done throughout the district. And I do think that we need to put a focus on making sure that transportation is addressed early and now. And number two, I think it's important for us to discuss that, businesses do come into our area based on modes of transportation and people being able to get to work. So I think that's a huge focus for us in the district.
Yeah, I mean, we agree. Some of the studies put out by Orange County show that in maybe 10, 15 years, our roads will be so congested by traffic that it will be difficult to get around at certain periods of the day.
Yes.
And that's why we are really focused, Central Floridians First Public Transit, we're focused on trying to get transit to be a reasonable alternative to the car, because it's much more efficient. It's probably one of the few ways that you could help decrease congestion.
Absolutely.
Were you going to say something?
Yes, I was going to use actually New York, where we're from, as an example. I would say a long time ago, you possibly could wait 15, 20 minutes for the bus. And now when I'm there, even though there's lots of cars and different modes of transportation, the train, the subway, I do see the buses coming quite frequently, and it is used quite often in New York. And just think about, they have seasonal changes there, right? So that's something to consider there too. But here we have just that length of time for the bus to come is just not acceptable at all. And there's issues of safety that we need to talk about as well. Standing there by yourself, waiting for the bus.
Yes.
During the nighttime.
Yeah, so definitely we're in support of better lighting. Better enclosures. We are also in support of better funding for pedestrian and cyclist safety, because that last mile issue where you have to walk a few blocks to get to the bus stop, if it's dangerous, nobody's going to do that.
Absolutely not. And then when we think about pedestrian safety here in Central Florida, we have the highest number. Let's talk about Pine Hills and Silver Star. That is a dangerous corner. So is Silver Star and Hiawassee as well, for our public transportation and people using their bicycles and getting off the bus and people turning the corner. Wow, we have some great concerns, on the studies that have been done by FDOT and the different agencies are of concern. Right, for us in our community. So I don't think people are paying attention that drive, how much it's an issue.
Yeah.
they forgot if they ever took the bus what it was like, but they don't think they realize what it's like now. We need to bring an awareness to that.
Yeah. So, what would you do as commissioner to bring awareness and to help solve some of these issues?
First of all, we have to take the entire community into consideration, and I don't think a lot of people are doing that. They just go about their business driving, so it really doesn't matter about the pedestrian or who's taking public transportation. We need to bring that to the forefront,
Right.
because they need to definitely give some attention to what's going on there. I realize that if it doesn't affect someone, it doesn't mean anything to them. And I stop and think about, what are my young people and their families saying to me about public transportation? And when I've gone around to the different listening tours, I've heard about the public transportation. I've heard about it in South Apopka. I've heard about it in Pine Hills. I need to do some more research in Eatonville. But I've heard the conversation always go to the length of time that it takes. So I think definitely having that conversation, town hall forums and putting together task force are going to be my best friends.
Okay.
And those task force have to bring about solutions. Solutions is a big deal for me. That's why I have a solution center. I didn't talk about that before, but I do have a solution center through the nonprofit that I run, just for that, to bring about solutions to these issues. So I think as commissioner, I would bring that to the forefront, how we have to focus on that a little bit more about transportation, because people have to get to work, to school. It's a mode of transportation. It needs to be efficient.
Right. And as you're saying, safety is a big issue, and improved public transit would help with safety, because drivers aren't always aware of their surroundings in their personal automobiles. Yeah, and I was just thinking as you were talking about that, how drivers in their personal automobiles don't really realize the issues until it happens to them, until they get into a crash, until one of their family members gets into a crash. So yeah, I totally agree with you that you need to bring awareness so that they don't have to get into a crash to start thinking about public safety and transit and cyclist and pedestrian safety.
Absolutely. You know, I remembered the last time I saw this was recently, when the law enforcement decided to issue tickets for people that were not allowing people to cross safely when they entered into the crosswalk.
Yeah.
And you know why? That's because they go about their everyday business, they see someone in the crosswalk and they just keep driving.
Yeah, that's awful.
Right? Absolutely. And it's not until they're stopped or there is a sting that's out there saying, wait a minute, you have to stop when there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk.
Yes.
And that's so how important. I know we go about our everyday business, just not paying attention, because we feel it doesn't affect us because we don't ride public transportation. Right. And we have to think, if you're in leadership, you can't solve every problem, but you need to be a little bit more aware. And you're there to be the voice of the voiceless.
Right.
Right? And to be the voice of the voiceless, you need to take command of issues that are brought to your attention.
Yes.
All right. So I think that's something.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Most of the riders of Lynx currently are generally part of marginalized communities. Yes. They are low income workers who can't afford a car. Yes. They are disabled folks who can't drive.
Absolutely.
And if they're waiting for a bus for hours, they can't go to a county commissioner's meeting to speak about it.
That's correct.
So I'm really glad to hear that you are trying to be a voice for the voiceless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what our role is. We're supposed to serve the people. I have to remind people, in order for you to serve the people, you have to love the people. So if you don't care about the people, then you shouldn't be in that role.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So going on to some of my other questions. So this question is about a proposed Orange Blossom Express, which is a commuter rail project. If you want to like investigate more, that's totally fine. You could say,
Okay.
yeah. But we were wondering if it would be a project you might support, because it would provide a direct link between Apopka and downtown, and it could extend into Lake County. If you don't feel comfortable, if you want to like investigate more, that's fine. But we just wanted to get your general ideas on rail transit and expanding rail.
Okay, great question. I need to do some research. Let's start
Yeah.
there a little bit more. But I am passionate enough to speak a little bit about it, if
Okay.
that's okay. I'm in favor of transit, especially an express rail from Apopka. Apopka is the fastest growing city right now, with everyone moving there. So I'm thinking, in my mind, wow, just think about everyone getting an opportunity to leave their cars, maybe at a particular station.
Yeah.
Right, giving them an opportunity to get onto the express rail and get to their destinations quickly, right, and safely, and cut back on all that transmission and all the traffic and the congestion that could. I love the idea.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I think that could help transport our commuters quite efficiently and quickly, and cut back on the pollution and the traffic congestion, and get them there quickly and safely. And I'm pretty sure and hope that those trains would run a little bit more efficiently than the buses would at this particular time. Right. So I think that's an awesome solution to what we're dealing with now in District 2 in terms of our growth. Right. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to doing some more research in that. But right now, feel quite in favor of what that looks like.
Yeah. We at Central Floridians for Public Transit, we think that it's really important to not just focus on cars as the only mode of transit, because we can't keep cutting down forests and wetlands to build more roads that are only going to get more congested over time.
Yes.
So we need more efficient modes of transportation.
Absolutely. And as a New Yorker that's been on the subway several times, we've definitely gotten to where we needed to go in the 5 boroughs quite efficiently.
That's good.
Yes,
that's great.
Yeah, definitely. It's expected that you'll have some malfunction, but not all the time though.
Yeah.
You get there quite efficiently. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'll definitely do some more homework on that.
Okay. So there are some technical questions in here that my colleague had prepared, but we just wanted to introduce the idea of bus rapid transit.
Okay.
Which is where there are dedicated bus lanes.
Okay.
For buses, so that they don't have to stop in traffic all the time.
Okay.
It functions, but bus rapid transit, when there's a dedicated bus lane, there's some other aspects to it, like having people have quick payments with their credit cards.
Okay.
But it's mostly based on bus lanes and some other aspects to it. Transit signal priority, where the bus gets priority in the signals.
Okay.
It functions a lot like rail, because you're not stopping and going in traffic if you have a dedicated bus lane. And we just wanted to get your thoughts on the possible bus rapid transit.
Okay, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And let me tell you why I'm excited about that. There's something, and New York is my frame of reference because I've lived there the longest. Right? So in New York, there's something called a limited, right? And it sounds a little bit like that. So the limited does not stop at every stop.
Right.
That the regular bus stops, right? And I believe you can use your card and different modes of payment to get on the limited. And you're aware of the stops before you get on that limited, and it moves expeditiously, of course.
Awesome.
Right? Yes. And I think that gets you to your destination quicker without stopping at every single stop. And I think having a dedicated lane would kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? So to move, there's no one else that's in the lane unless you're turning. There's some lanes that are like that now.
Yeah.
Yes, throughout the county. And I think that there's some efficiency to that.
Yeah.
Right? Because at the end of the day, what am I going to say? It's about solutions and getting people to their destinations as safely and quickly as possible.
Okay.
Right? So I'm definitely interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good. I'm so glad that you were here today so that we can definitely go over some things, because now you have my mind working and putting it on my first 100-day plan.
Cool.
Yes.
That's great to hear.
Yes. Absolutely. Excited about that.
And with my last question, I'm going to introduce another idea that we are in support of. It kind of it intersects with housing.
Okay.
And the housing shortage that we have in Orange County. There's this idea of transit-oriented development.
Okay.
Where we have developments near bus stations and rail stations that kind of cut back on parking spaces a little bit, not too much, but where people who live in these somewhat dense housing developments can get on the train or the bus quickly because they're right at that station. So we were wondering, we just wanted to introduce this idea of transit-oriented development and hear your thoughts.
Oh, wow. We're batting 100 today because I like that too. Absolutely. Anything to help our communities thrive.
Right.
We should not let people feel left out because at this point in time where they are in life, they're not able to afford a car.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We're moving towards growth, and we're telling people that technology is fastly improving, but our transit system needs work.
Yes.
Right? So why aren't we moving in that direction, that we're offering options that present those three options that you just talked about that are so needed right now?
Right.
I'm in favor of that. Absolutely. We have a shortage of homes, right? People are moving here for a reason. We're growing rapidly, right? Technology is growing rapidly, right? We have just about the largest university here with over 65,000 young people. Are we telling them to go back where you came from if you came into UCF from another area for school? Are we offering them jobs here? Or are we offering housing here? Modes of transportation is important.
Right.
Right? That they know the options that are there for them to stay here. We need those young people after we educate them to stay here.
Yeah, that's definitely where we're at too with Central Floridians for Public Transit. We realize that if you don't have housing, especially transit-oriented development in the Orange County, you have to commute long distances. That has emissions, that has stress.
Yes.
So, it's an important topic.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. And we definitely have to keep that conversation going. What happens to us, we get comfortable. And we get comfortable because it doesn't affect us.
Right.
Right? And we need to keep that on the forefront, because once you start having that conversation and bringing about solutions, you'll get people to pay attention.
Right.
You definitely will. Yeah. So what do they say? The squeaky wheel gets the squeaky wheel.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil.
That's it.
Yes.
That's
Well,
it.
thank you so much for discussing this with me.
It was all mine.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing about those exciting solutions that I really, really want to delve into a little bit more.
Yeah,
so that I can be a part of that solution. So yes, please share it with me.
Yes, I will get in contact with you and give you those the ideas names. Give you the names of those ideas.
Absolutely, so I can advocate for them.
Yeah,
and definitely make sure that people are understanding that this is an important topic and we need to focus on it and bring about the solutions needed.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.